Imagine this reality, okay? As described by a Dr. Catherine Horton in this pretty compelling audio recording from September 17th, 2018, she's talking about pulse energy projectiles ripping through her body from adjacent hotel rooms. It's an extraordinary account, and it's actually the single source for our deep dive today.
Yeah, it really is something.
So our mission today, just to be clear, is to impartially pull out and look at the core claims and, importantly, the urgent call to action from this really intense narrative. Dr. Horton, she presents this situation of extreme personal threat, right? But then it sort of spirals out into this, well, truly apocalyptic global vision. Our job is just to lay out exactly what she shared so you can understand the very specific, very detailed worldview she's presenting.
And what's really striking about this source, I think, is how that deeply personal, almost visceral story becomes a lens, for this much, much larger global claim. We really need to follow that thread to get not just the what she's describing, but the why it matters, at least according to her perspective.
Okay, so Dr. Horton's account, it starts with this terrifying plunge into her immediate reality. It paints this really vivid picture of, well, a world under constant invisible assault. She details her claim of having to flee her flat in Zurich. Why? Because she says she was being machine-gunned with directed energy weapons.
Right, and she describes these attacks as pulse energy projectiles, like unseen energy beams, basically, striking her body roughly, 2 to 3 shots per second?
Yeah, making her feel like her body is just being ripped through. She even likens it to a scene out of Star Wars, as being shot to shreds from 3 to 4 directions.
And this isn't just a one-off thing for her, apparently. She talks about escaping to a hotel, room 5 specifically, only to claim the attacks just kept coming, seemingly from the rooms right next door, rooms 4, 6, and 7. Yeah, and she states with 100% certainty that these shots are coming from those rooms, which leads her to conclude these people are contract killers. Hired, she says, by Swiss Secret Services or Swiss bonders. That second group implying, I guess, some specific financial elite in Switzerland she thinks is involved.
The details she gives are very specific, almost trying to ground these extraordinary claims in something tangible. She mentions getting several shots through my stomach from one direction, and earlier shots that apparently passed through her body and actually hit a wooden cupboard.
Allowing her to pinpoint the origin, she says.
Right, and she claims she's repeatedly shot through the face and skull, which she says triggers light flashes from her optical nerve. This, she states, has been an ongoing attempt by Secret Services since January 2016, she says, to blind her and cause optical degeneration.
And she even presents an email death threat.
Yeah, from perpetrators who she claims, quote, enjoyed microwaving me.
It's intense. And to protect herself, she explains she actually sleeps with a helmet on her head.
A helmet, yeah, and extra protection on top of that.
Yeah.
That's a really stark image of just constant perceived threat.
And that really sets the stage for her broader claims, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Because as we delve deeper into her reasoning, the narrative takes this really significant turn. She pushes back hard on terms like surveillance abuse or even human experimentation. She says, no, this is something far more advanced, far more deliberate.
Okay.
She claims the perpetrators have an extremely high level of control, causing things like mental fog, mental degeneration, and even controlling senses, hearing, sight, smell, through what she calls nose chips or eye implants or ear chips, even biosensors on their tongue, tiny undetectable devices in her telling that allow direct manipulation of the body and perception.
Wow. Okay, so implants. Her account then presents this pretty remarkable history of these things. She cites a Dr. Ronnie Kilder claiming the first brain implants were actually developed and implanted way back in 1874.
In Ohio.
Of 1874. Yeah, meaning the field, according to this, was already 40 years old by World War I. She also claims RFID chips have been put in military pilots and agents' necks, hairlines, since the 50s and 60s.
Leading her to conclude, what?
That basically every person who is ever a member of the military or an intelligence agency, and even of police, is, quote, 100% chipped.
100%. And her claims get even broader. She references research by a Dr. Millicent Black stating that Ronald Reagan supposedly signed a secret part of the Immigration Control Act back in the mid-'80s.
Secret part allowing what?
Allowing the chipping of all Americans at birth.
At birth.
And then she extrapolates from this, suggesting a very large fraction of the world population has already been implanted, especially in places she calls colonies: India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Africa, parts of Far East Asia.
So the implication, in her view, is huge.
Exactly. that every young person, every member of the militaries, the police, and intel is implanted. And crucially, this includes brain chips.
And alongside the chips, there are the weapons. Directed energy weapons, DWs. She asserts these things advanced, non-kinetic energy weapons were developed way back in the early 20th century.
So not new tech at all, in her view.
Not at all. No, fully developed technology being actively used, not tested. And she explains how the implants fit in.
They guide the weapons.
That's her claim. They act as markers, like a coordinate system on our bodies. When a chip is hit, she says, it registers a hit and communicates it back, allowing for high accuracy through several walls. That's the claim.
Okay, so she's laid out the personal attacks, the technology, the chips, the DWs. Her explanation then pivots to the purpose behind it all. And this is where her narrative shifts from, individual targeting to this horrifying global strategy.
Right. She states very clearly this is not about surveillance, not about experimentation, not even about brain mapping. Instead, she claims it's about putting into practice an extermination program, a global mass holocaust.
A global mass holocaust. That's a huge claim.
It is. And if we connect this to the bigger picture she's painting, her narrative tries to answer the why. Why would such a terrifying program exist? Who benefits? And this is where she introduces this idea of a mafia leadership or a cartel.
A cartel that orchestrates
What?
a revolution cycle, she calls it, designed specifically for asset stripping.
Asset stripping. And how does this cycle work, according to her?
Well, it's a pretty chilling model, she describes.
Yeah.
The cartel, she claims, hires low-income people, she calls them corrupt criminal thugs,
All right.
to kill the currently rich so they can gain their assets. But then, in the next cycle, they kill off those newly rich criminals.
Using a new set of poor criminals.
Exactly. While the mafia leadership always stays at the top, she claims this isn't theoretical. It's a business plan used repeatedly.
And she gives historical examples.
She does, citing the Nazi genocide, communist genocides under Stalin and also under Mao, conflicts in Vietnam, Africa specifically, Rwanda, Latin America, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. She sees this pattern everywhere. And who are the people actually doing the killing in this scenario? The ones she calls gang stalkers.
She has some very strong descriptions for them. She calls them the last scum, dumb, utterly corrupt, the dregs of society. People who are so poor that if they get a bit more, they will kill. They're unemployed, she claims, and they want your stuff.
Yet she contrasts them with who?
With the normals. Productive, hardworking people, people with integrity. She says they're useless for the cartel because they're too busy actually working and producing things.
So this vast army that carries out the cartel's plans,
Yeah.
it's a mix.
Yeah, according to her, it's people with stupendous wealth at the top combined with stupendous numbers of poor people of corrupt predisposition. That's her definition of the proletariat in this context.
And a big part of her claim focuses on psychology, right? The psychopathic element.
Exactly. She states a very large fraction of the perpetrators are clinically insane, actual psychopaths.
How does she support that?
She points to research mentioning neuroscientist Jim Fallon, who studies psychopaths' brains. She describes their brains as having, quote, bits missing in their head for assessing risk or caring about others.
Less activity in certain areas.
Right. Lacking modules for empathy, long-term thinking, or thinking about risk and the consequences.
And this makes him useful.
Ideal for military roles, she believes. And it ensures, in her view, that they will literally not stop unless they face their own death or a very high likelihood they'll die.
So, okay, when you consider the numbers she brings in, the scale of this claim within her narrative becomes really, really impactful. She cites data from a website, deagle.com, describes it as a private intelligence agency site, updated frequently.
And the numbers are stuck.
Extremely. For Switzerland, where she is, she says the population is currently 8.2 million. Projected, she claims, to be just about 5 million people in 7 years.
Implying a third murdered.
Yes. And for the United States, current population 327 million, projected, she says, to drop to 100 million in 7 years.
That's 327 million people murdered, according to that projection she's citing.
Yeah. And these figures really underscore her absolute insistence that waiting, doing nothing, is simply not an option.
And given her description of the threat, pervasive, relentless, carried out by psychopaths, according to her, it really raises the question within her framework, what can anyone possibly do? She offers a pretty stark critique of just waiting for help.
Exactly. She completely dismisses political figures like Trump as saviors, says he doesn't have the manpower and claims we would all be dead by now if people were just waiting for him. She's particularly scathing about QAnon, calls it a sedative.
A gamification exercise, yeah.
Right, encourages waiting, solving riddles and puzzles, wasting precious time. She emphasizes, using very strong language, there's no F time for that when facing a mass genocide.
And she points to ongoing cases, like NSA whistleblower Karen Milton Stewart or Dr. Millicent Black, the researcher she cited earlier.
As proof that no supposed counter-coup from the military or intel agencies has actually stopped the targeting.
So, with all those external avenues apparently closed off in her view, what's left?
The internet. She identifies the internet as the only thing that's different now, the thing that allows for rapid communication.
Okay.
And she asserts the only salvation is for, quote, all the productive people who have got integrity, who have jobs and families, to get their ass into gear.
Mobilization, basically.
Total mobilization. And she's very specific about the concrete steps she thinks you, the listener, should take. First, wake up as many people of integrity with a job and with something to lose who are not criminal as you can fit into your working day. That's a direct quote.
And if they can't be woken up?
Move on. She says some might be unreachable due to claimed mind control or chips. For victims, she urges them, collect evidence, write detailed affidavits.
Using a template from her website, Stop 7.
Right, which she describes as providing resources for people targeted like her. Document everything, what happened, who did it, both, neighbors, high-profile figures, whoever. Get evidence like license plates, photographs, and do it all under oath for potential court use.
And then pressure the authorities. Intensely.
Yeah, she says, inundate, intimidate all the politicians, the heads of police, and all these people to make them feel our numbers first.
Intimidate them how?
Tell them, she instructs, that what we all are working for is actually military tribunals and their death by lawful means.
Yeah.
Referring to what she claims would be the legal consequence for those involved in this genocide. Demand local police chiefs search cars, flats for due Ws, put out calls for victim affidavits.
It goes further than local police, though, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Confront FBI agents, heads of CIA, NSA, GCHQ, MI5, MI6, BND, NDB, all the big agencies. Confront them with the threat of the death penalty via military tribunals if they don't stop the genocide. That's her instruction.
She also calls for targeted intimidation. What does she mean by that?
She's clear it's not random violence, but rather figure out who in your local community is a fear criminal and start intimidating them through police, courts, or even personal threats.
But she adds a caution.
A crucial one. Be certain that you're not threatening innocent people.
Okay. What else? Secret societies.
Yes. Demand that QAnon and the supposed intel counter-coups publish lists of members of the Masons and Jesuits.
Why them specifically?
Because she claims these secret societies are involved in criminality, things like child trafficking and Satanism, and have oaths that promote mass genocide.
This sounds like a full-time commitment.
She says it has to be. You better stop having any free time if you want to survive. Dedicate evenings, weekends, all of it.
Wow, and she brings children into it, too.
In a really chilling way, claiming that children born after the mid-1980s are shipped and can be, quote, taken over by a supercomputer at the speed of light and made to kill you.
She cites Rwanda as an example there, right?
Yes. And ultimately, her point is that all the usual divisions, Democrats versus Republicans, racial conflicts, gender identity stuff, none of that matters compared to stopping what she characterizes as dumb as criminals from killing us all.
Right.
So this deep dive has really laid bare Dr. Horton's incredibly detailed worldview, one where these intense personal threats escalate into this horrifying global program. Now, the claims are profoundly radical. Our goal here was just to illuminate the specific arguments and the unequivocal conviction with which she presents her call to action. What stands out to you most about the sort of construction of a narrative like this?
Well, if Dr. Horton's assessment, her worldview, is even partially reflecting some hidden reality, then the idea that you could have deeply entrenched psychopathic individuals, as she describes them, operating totally unchecked, and that our current systems might be complicit or captured, that presents a truly radical challenge, a challenge to how we understand societal control and the individual's role within it. It's really a stark reminder, isn't it, that if we aren't actively engaged in, critical thinking and potentially assertive action, depending on what we believe, the world might be a far, far different place than we assume it is.